introduction, and he said, you know what? All I ever really did from 91 to 2010 is copy success. Everything that I saw that someone else that was doing was successful, I implemented it with a ferocious attack. And I was very, very impressed with his humility, because he was the #1 ERA agent in the world, earning over 7 digits in commission in each calendar year during the last several years. He recently came over and opened an exit office in Tampa, Florida, and his name is Arcuri.
Thank you all for coming. First of all, I want to thank the Forbes family. As usual, first class, excellent job. I don't think there's a better regional owner in the whole system, and Lord knows we've got some good ones. So I want to thank Scott Forbes and his family for the great job that they always do. You know, like Russ said, you know, I really don't, everybody's what's your claim to fame? I really don't feel like I have a claim to fame. I just copy other people. So for me, Exit was the ideal company to go to because, you know, we've got a lot of trainers, as we all know, and there's some excellent training, even for a new agent coming into the system, I think is ideal for them. I think we all seem to focus on residuals, and when we're trying to recruit agents, I think one of the things we need to focus on are the tools that are made available to us and the training that's made available to us, because those are really, to me, the nucleus of the company. The residuals are just a sideline. You know, I want people to come to Exit because that's the best move for them. It's the best move for their family. I think one of the things that is always intriguing to me are people that are with these other brands or with these other badges, and they have such a loyalty to their broker. And they don't want to leave because they feel bad for their broker. They like the owner of that franchise. They've treated them well. They've patted them on the head. They patted me on the head so much, that's how I lost my hair, I think, sometimes, is I was getting patted on the head so much. And you do feel a sense of obligation to them, and you get kind of an attachment, kind of like they're a family member of yours. Well, if you ever wanted to meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you just tell that broker that you're leaving for Exit, and you can meet the other alter personality. I think that's when you really get a reality for what it is. But because I think the main differential is that when you're working for another company, you are a residual for that broker. There are no residuals for you because you don't have a stake in the company. Management does, ownership does, you don't. So you are a residual to them. I remember recruiting people for my previous badge, and I would get a $50 Starbucks card, you know, which lasts my daughter about a week. So that's what I got. So the residuals are a sideline. I think we need to focus on the tools and things that are available to us. You know, it reminds me, you know, this is a true story. Back in the 1800s, there was a guy that used to walk across Niagara Falls every day. He was going to walk across Niagara Falls 500 consecutive days, regardless of the weather, wind conditions. He was going to walk across Niagara Falls, and he walked across Niagara Falls. And on the 500th anniversary, the 500th day, the media was there. They were there to take pictures and do an interview with him. And he came across that day on a wheelbarrow. Now, this guy had done it backwards. He had done it on a bicycle. He had done it blindfolded, walking backwards, all different kinds of terrain. And this 500th day, he came across the one side of Niagara Falls. The media's there, and they're interviewing him, and he's telling the guy, well, I'm going to go back. He's telling the reporter, I'm going to go back. Do you think I'm going to make it? Yeah, you're going to make it. Are you sure I'm going to make it? Yeah, I'm sure you're going to make it. You're 100% sure that I'm going to walk across and I'm going to make it safely to the other side. I'm 100% sure. And he tells the reporter, get in the wheelbarrow, let's go. And the reporter didn't get in the wheelbarrow. And the reason why I tell that story is when I look at some of the agents that are struggling, especially in this Florida economy, they're saying, why aren't you getting in the wheelbarrow? If there's something that you know that works, and it's like Russ said, I've copied people relentlessly. If I know of a new agent that's done 20 transactions in a year, I want to talk to that agent. I want to know, what has he done 20 transactions in 1 year, so I can copy him, because those 20 transactions may not be related to the way I did my transactions. So I think it's very, very important to pay attention to what's going on around you. And if you know something works, use it. How many people, show of hands, are using e-listings and promo shop? I see a lot of hands that are not going up. Let me tell you a quick little story. In 2008, when I was the #1 ERA agent in the world, Tampa was still on the rear end of the booming market. And when I came to exit in February of 2009, the market in Tampa crashed. It's a very construction-heavy town. We've got almost 20% unemployment. Over 50% of the people in Tampa are upside down in their mortgage. It's a horrible place to sell real estate if you're a realtor. In 2008, when I was #1 in the world with ERA, I think I closed like 75 sides that year. Last year, while I was with Exit, when I was with Exit Realty, 2010, in the worst real estate market, arguably in the entire country, I closed 115 sales sides based on the Exit products that I'm using, the promo shop and the e-listings. And Jeff Lobb, Jeff's here, he knows all about it, because Jeff was the one that just rammed it down my throat and got me to implement that. So as time, that's been a big thing. And as far as I don't want to talk on 2 mics at one time here, sorry about that. Some of the things that have really, over the years, and when you keep in mind, when you're trying to recruit agents, I remember in my entire career, I used to come in and I shot video with Shane Penley. As a lot of y'all know, Shane with Paris, that I do a lot of video presentations as part of my marketing. And whenever we would go in to shoot, Shane would always tell me, "Why aren't you with Exit?" And I knew that he was shooting video for ERA. He was shooting for every badge that there was. And that was always a topic of conversation when he came in to when I'd come in to shoot video. And I really wish that I would have paid attention, because it really would have made a difference for me to have joined 10 years ago. One of the things that's impressive with the company for me is the fact that Steve Morris invented the company. He thought of the company. He's the CEO of the company. He's still here. You look at Tammy Bunnell, over a decade. These people have been in charge of our company. That's very important. When I was with ERA, I thought that CEO stood for something different. I didn't think it stood for I'm drawing a blank over here. For CEO, Chief Executive Officer. To me, when I was with ERA, it stood for changing employment opportunity, because somebody was constantly changing. There was always a change at the top, and I always think that's bad, because when you'd go to an event, you'd meet somebody. It was somebody totally different every time. They didn't know the agents. There was a constant turnaround. I think Exit is really solid. I think if we wouldn't have had the hiccup in the market that we had, I think that we would probably already be the #1 brand in the entire industry. You know, one of the things to always consider is the brainwashing that goes on at the other offices, like I had mentioned with these agents. And what I mean by that is that the residual income that comes from us, it's hard for people to understand. One of the things when I talk to people, they always tell me that when you're dealing with buyers or sellers, they say, well, they don't understand how real estate works. I worked with that buyer for 4 months, and then he bought a new construction home. Well, a lot of realtors that are not with Exit, they don't understand real estate either, because Shane Penley once told me, and this is something that I've mentioned to people often, and it's really true, if you remove the badge off the top of every brand and you write their formula down and you show it to somebody that's not in the real estate industry, somebody that's not affiliated, that's not a realtor, that's not a lender, and you just say, where would you go work? Every one of them would pick Exit Realty. We're the ones that don't know. We're the ones that are brainwashed by where we're at, and we get that sense of loyalty, but the sense of loyalty is not reciprocated between the two people. So I just wanted to mention that. You know, one of the things everybody's really focusing on nowadays too is the scaling back of when everybody's trying to look at scaling back, I think you need to really ramp up. I know we were in Janice Pettaway's office a couple of weeks ago, and Janice was on a rampage about telling her husband Trevor that he really needed to watch the employees, and they don't want to have any goofing off. And she really, Trevor's in his office just doing his work. He's never even really out there with the agents and the staff. So I was up there in the lobby, and then here comes Trevor. Some guy's up there leaning on the front table, and I felt bad for the guy. And here comes Trevor, and he says, "Hey, what do you make a week?" And the guy's $300. Trevor pulls out $300 and goes, you're fired, get out of here. He goes, I never want to see you again. I don't want anybody over here leaning on the tables. You know, this is your severance pay, goodbye. So a little while later, Janice comes out and goes, where's that pizza guy that was out here? So you got to be careful with when you're scaling back on these things. You have to be very, very careful with that. So I think they learned a lesson with that for sure. So, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, back when I was a new agent, you really come into a situation in this business where there's a lot of feel good, and today's one of the days, you know, we're getting the awards up here. I think it's something that everybody needs. They need to be told that they're doing a good job. And when I worked at Tampa Electric, I graduated high school in 1981. I went immediately to go work at a power plant, and I was a janitor. And I was a janitor for 10 years in various promotions and various glorified names, but I was basically a janitor. And when I got into real estate in 1991, one of the things that really took me by surprise was the fact that you actually would go into the business and people would reward you. And I took 3 listings. I think my second or third month in the business, I took 3 listings, and I was honored I tied as the top listing agent in the company. And that's when you really get hooked. You know, I took the day off of work. I got a little piece of paper that said I was the #1 listing agent. And you know, when you're cleaning toilets and putting bars of soap and towels out for people, and nobody ever says anything to you unless there's no towels or there's no soap or anything for you, then that's really when management wanted to really talk with you. So I think real estate it's a win because it's a self-esteem builder for you. I think when you're doing your job, people are rewarding you for it. You're getting recognized for it, like today. So it's really, I think it's a win-win. You can take your time. But one of the things that I'm going to caution everybody against is, you know, a lot of people feel like they have a mobile device and they can sit at home and, well, if somebody needs to get a hold of me. Well, one thing that I do is I go to work every day. And if I don't have any appointments and I don't have anything to do, I go in and I find something to do that day when I'm in the office. One of the things that I talked with Jeff about and that we're starting to do is I go onto Facebook and I just look up these people, the expired listings. I look up their names in Facebook, and they're real easy to find because the people that are closest to your proximity pop up first. And a lot of times it's real easy to find these people on Facebook. And to send the expired letter, it's an instantaneous thing to send them where it says friend request. You can just send them an instant message and say, hey, your listing expired today, and I'd love the opportunity to sit down with you. And it's a direct contact. You could be the first person to speak with these people. You know, you're sitting at home watching reruns of Oprah Winfrey, and that's not there for you. But if you come to the office and you're looking for something to do, that's something that you could do. One of the things that I do now, and I had mentioned to somebody, I was talking to Matt, one of the things I think with this REO boom that we're involved with right now, there's a great opportunity, but I look at a lot of people that were highly successful in 2005, and you see that they're really struggling today. And I almost see the mirror getting ready to happen the other way, where I see a lot of REO people that are just basking in all this business that's coming in, and they're not preparing for ways to hold on to those listings. One of the things, because I had told Colleen I'd give some tips on some of the stuff that I do that's been very successful for me, which once again, I just copied from somebody else. But there's a guy out there on one of the vendors that's selling the Velo bind. And he's got a little thing there. It says Exit Realty on it. It's like a little home records portfolio. And it's got a little Exit logo on it. They're like $10. You get a good listing. And I wish that I could tell you all that this worked like 75 or 65% of the time, but I've been doing it for 10 years, and I can honestly say that 100% of the time this has worked for us. You take that little home records portfolio and say that you sell a house, it's your listing, and Mr. Century 21 sold a listing to that buyer. About a week after closing, I got a few of them in the car. I go visit during the weekend. I knock on the door. I say, hey, Mr. Jones, Vince Arcuri from Exit Realty. Do you remember me? Yes, no, maybe. I was the listing agent when you bought the house. Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I wanted to bring you this housewarming gift. It's a little home records portfolio. I want to let you know I still continue to communicate with the Smiths. So if you have any questions about the house, I've included my business card in the package, and you can give me a call. I'll speak to the Smiths. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have about the house.